This is Dolynny TV, and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion. Today on the channel, let me make sure I got my brightness up so as I can actually see I look like something today. Well, let me tell you, it was a hot day at work, a busy outdoor day, and now come inside, get in front of the wall, and let's get down to the nitty-gritty discussion on priority number one, as outlined by Ken Holland, taking the day off yesterday. You can see and here, I do not sound my best. I, of course, mentioned I was sick the other day. Well, it got worse yesterday. Now back to the routine and hopefully get better on the mend for tonight's softball game I got coming up. However, priority number one, stay focused. That's kind of the task for Ken Holland. That's the task for me in today's video. Priority number one, what is it? I've mentioned it 3 times now. It is finding a head coach for our Edmonton Oilers. It's obviously not going to be Ken Hitchcock. I wish I would have grabbed a bowl of alphabets so as I can literally eat my words as I said I would. However, don't have those, so should have went to the grocery store. But priority number one, let's stay focused. Today, not exactly addressing who I think should be coach, because one thing I'm notorious for not doing outside of the Oilers is watching hockey consistently enough to give you a factual, informed opinion. I try my best, but life does get in the way, and I mean, you watch all 82 games in a season, it's a grind. I can't even say I did that. But today I'm looking to talk about the qualities the Edmonton Oilers need out of their next head coach. Obviously, we've seen the qualities Todd McLellan brought, Ken Hitchcock brought, but guys, there are so many broken things that both of them brought. Obviously, the number one thing we can say is the line juggling they introduced, which just did not work. But to their, I guess, credit, it was a facto of the roster depth. The line imbalance with this Oilers team, and trying to get guys who were stuck in neutral all year out of that and going, and it worked for Zach Kassian, but literally no one else pretty much this year. So that's obviously something we're not looking for in a coach, but I'll get more to that point in a minute. Obviously, when you're talking point number one about a quality for a coach that you're looking to coach Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, you're looking for somebody who can speak the superstar language. Obviously, what is that? I can ask you, you'll tell me one thing, I can tell you another, and Buddy Joe Block down the street will tell you a thing completely different. In my opinion, when you're talking a superstar language speaker coach, you're talking somebody who can get the best out of the big dogs each night. So that means whether it's a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning you're up against, or a team like the Arizona Coyotes, you can go out there and know that they're going to put up the same amount of points as they would put up against the best team or the worst team. I guess I should be talking about the LA Kings, but I like beating on the Coyotes sometimes. Got to do it. But yeah, anyway, you know what I mean. It's a matter of sitting here points-wise. You've got to get the same production out of your stars every single night. And you got to be able to coach them, prepare them to do that against anybody, no matter who that opponent is. I'm not saying Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins need that extra drive or need that coaching to do that, but it helps when you've got a guy who kind of has their back and says, this is what I'm expecting, this is the keys to success, can you do it, here's how I expect you to do it, not here's how I need you, you know what I mean, I guess need you to do it, not expect you, because I'll get to that more in a second. And then to the line juggling aspect is to deploy them effectively every shift. Give your superstar players, if it's going to be Nuge on line 2 and Dry and McDavid on line 1, well, you got to have them be able to do their best work against the, weaknesses in the other team's lineup. And that's deploying them effectively and going out there and making sure, going out of your way to give them the best possible chance to succeed. This does require having some roster depth to be able to throw out a third or fourth line in a role that maybe they shouldn't be in to set up a matchup next shift. It's a chest move game that I'm asking for out of a head coach, but it's a quality that every head coach has got to have when you've got a Connor McDavid, a Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on your line on the top 6. You got to be able to tactfully do that and be able to do it effectively to get them deployed effectively. Or like you've seen this year, you're going to be playing catch up a lot of the season. And I feel that's what Hitchcock and McLellan played a lot of the year. Now, mind you, road and stuff like that does come into effect, but you gotta have that roster depth, and that's where maybe I'm getting to the point of what this year was a mess of, however. And we get to point last one, and this is exactly back to the line juggling, back to the running with them. You gotta let the big dogs eat. You gotta let them loose at the appropriate times. But the thing that Hitchcock and McLellan both ended up doing because of the roster depth too much this year is you had them abusing the power that's in the stables. And that wore on McDavid and Draisaitl. Thankfully, they're absolute units and were able to go out there and do the job every single night through the season. But you imagine a little bit more rest for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, how much more effective our power play could have been this year when they stayed out there all 2 minutes. Yes, maybe they should only be staying out there for a minute, but you stay them out there all 2 minutes with not having to play 24 minutes a night. Well, suddenly, if they play 22, they've got that extra 2 minutes of gas to play in that 22 minutes instead of 24. Guys, you're kidding me if you don't think Connor McDavid could have had, or Leon Draisaitl could have had, an even better season than they did. It's simple math. The more juice you have in the tank to flow with, well, heck, man, the gas to go is there. The more points you can put on the board. That's simple hockey. If you're not gassed, you should be gassed to go. And now, this is the one. Obviously, we've had the theories on McLellan losing the room. We've had Hitchcock calling out Draisaitl. We've had several coaches going at issue with their players. Yes, at times, some guys have deserved the kick in the butt, but I think when you're a new coach coming into this Oilers team, fresh from being the guy hand-selected by Ken Holland, who was hand-selected by the upper echelons of Oilers management and ownership, well, now you've got to ask yourself, what do you got to be? And that thing you got to be is a player's guy. You got to be the player's best friend, every single one of them. I don't care if Lucic is making $6 million and only producing 20 points. You got to be his best friend to get to know him right down to the core to figure out what he needs to be at his most successful. That's what you got to do. You got to be friend and best friend every single player on this team in training camp, leading up to training camp. Go golf around, since that's pretty much all the Oilers are doing at this point. Go golf around with every single player once you're hired. If you're hired by August 1st, you've got 20 guys that you can possibly go golfing with. Do it. Get it done. Get to know them. Enjoy them as people, and then figure them out as players. Now, this is also another point to being a player's guy. You got to work with the players to get the best out of them, not what the coach wants out of them. So it's not what you want out of them, because we've seen too many coaches with the Oilers try to get what they want out of players, and it doesn't work in Edmonton. So what I'm talking about, work with the players to get the best out of them. Yeah, it can be kind of what you want. You want the best out of them, sure. But I'm talking guys like Jesse Puljujärvi, guys, right? There's guys in the lineup that could possibly benefit from getting the best out of them, not what the coach wants. And that's guys like Tobias Reeder, who won't be back, but you understand the guys I'm talking about. Obviously, Adam Larsson, a guy who overexposed all year, in my opinion. That led to the terrible plus-minus. Yes, he's a great defender, so everybody claims, but when you overexpose someone and you're trying to get what you want out of the player instead of what's best out of the player, you understand the gray area, yes, but it really affects your team like it did this season. So this guy's got to be a player's guy and go in with the mentality of getting the best out of his players, not necessarily what he wants out of them. Don't make them something they're not. And this is another key point, guys. You've got to really sit here, and when you've got the Edmonton Oilers, streaky team at best all the past 2 years, you got to sit here and qualify a coach who can stop a skid. I mean, you got to look at his tenure. This is the one resume thing I'm talking about. You got to look, and you got to look at every single skid he had in his career, and you got to go over. You got to emphasize the point. What has he proven over a career to be good at stopping slides and streaks in skids in play? You got to find what good qualities he brings to the bad quality of play, right? If he sees a bad skid, what does he do positively to change that situation? And that's a big key. That's a big must on my list if you're Ken Holland. And now this is another, well, a key one. Obviously, if you're Ken Holland's guy, you should be an effective communicator to the front office. But when you have an Oilers team like we have going into next year, potentially with Lucic and Sekera and Koskinen, you gotta be an effective communicator to the front office. Don't be a complainer. Like I said, still have your players' best interests. Be the player's guy, but you got to be able to effectively communicate your players' problems, your players' issues to the front office. And yeah, you know what? If the end result is you say, hey, I think Sekera could benefit from a deal to somewhere else, make that recommendation. Talk to Sekera first, but you got to effectively communicate with the front office what's best for your lineup every single night while having Ken Holland, who's supposedly very smart, be able to make the final call. And now this is to the line juggling point. I'm fine with line juggling. Guys, I have no problem with juggling the lines a little bit. But you got to have combo 1, combo A, combo that you go to start the game no matter what. That is what you want. That is ideal. That is perfect in your mind. That's combo 1. And no combo 2, 3, 4. You have combo 1, combo 2. That's it. That's the quality you got to look for. You got to have a guy who has plan A, plan B, and if you don't have plan A working, you go to plan B. If you don't have plan B, you go back to plan A. There is no plan C, D, E, F. Throw Lucic and friggin' Brad Malone on the top line with Connor McDavid. No, Brad Malone, albeit that's why I mentioned him. He's having a fantastic playoffs. But no, that's not the way it needs to work. That's not the way it can work for the Oilers to succeed. Anyways, guys, that's my little rant on today's video topic. What do you think? What are the qualities the Oilers need in their head coach candidate when Ken Holland goes to hire him? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm Tyson, this is Dolynny TV. I'm going to go blow my nose, hopefully die in the shower, and we'll be good for ball later on tonight. I am up on out of here.